Welcome to an all-new Tailgate Radio. I am the Grill Sergeant, John Largent.
And I'm the Gridiron Chef, returning after these years to my friend and old partner, Mr. John Largent.
This is a blast from the past, man. We haven't done this show in years. And just to give some context, Doc and I worked in the sports management space and the tailgating space for a number of years. And even before COVID, we had a little hiccup and things kind of fell apart and we went our separate ways. But we decided, hey, we had something we enjoyed doing. It was a lot of fun. We love food. We love sports. We love all the things associated with the lifestyle and the tailgating experience. And we're like, what the hell, man? Let's bring this thing back. Let's do it bigger and better than ever. And I'm so excited to be on the microphone with my dear friend, the Gridiron Chef himself. This guy is published in more magazines and more cookbooks, has been on the Food Network, has been on all kinds of television shows, and I'm excited to be back with my good friend, Doc.
We got more stories, brother, than anybody in the industry, and we're going to talk about some of them today, but it's like, I think to kind of bracket this, in this day and age of chaos in the world, there is nothing better than breaking bread. Sports and food is a combination that this world needs in North America right now. We just saw it, and you're going to talk about it, I'm sure, your experience with the World Cup and how we bring people together through sport and food. There are stories that are unmatched in both of those genres.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I will remember forever the year that the Super Bowl was down in Houston, Texas. And I was hanging out with some fans, and that was really one of the things that prompted this whole thing to get started. But I was talking to a gentleman that had a little hibachi and had a little fire and had a couple of hot dogs on it. And, it was not what you would call a modern day tailgate setup. The bigger, the better, the more food. I mean, this guy had a very modest setup, and man, he had a big smile on his face the whole time he was turning those frankfurters. And I was like, man, what brought you out here today? And he's like, look, my team is not in the Super Bowl, but everybody wins in the parking lot. And man, that has stuck with me for over 15 years, and I still see the guy's face, and I still have it on camera somewhere. So we'll have to find that clip and show that here on a future episode of Tailgate Radio.
I think we'd short ourselves if we didn't talk about the time we met. If you don't mind, I'll just give a quick Coles Notes version. I was doing a national pub radio show at a casino, and it was about beer and pubs, essentially lifestyle. And when you had called in and you said you want to talk off air, and it was around that time, a week or two before, I was in Buffalo cooking in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was mid-fall, and the leaves were falling, and the charcoal was attaching itself to the nose hairs. And you were looking around at almost 50,000 people that were there before 8 o'clock in the morning. And I looked around and I said, this is my moment. I had a glass of wine in my hand, starting a 6-course meal before a Bills game. And I looked around. That was the same week that a gentleman by the name of John Largent called into that show. We spoke off air. You sent me a plane ticket, and that's how essentially we met. And I think we met again in Baltimore.
Baltimore, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, near Camden.
Yeah, we were at a preseason game between back then the Redskins and the Ravens. So that ought to tell you how long it's been. It's been a while, but it's stories like that, and just the game day experience that is something that I enjoy more than anything. And I want to let the audience know, those of you that haven't followed us and don't know what the show is about, we'll tell you some things that the show is and what it isn't. What it is a celebration of the game day experience, the tailgating, the foods, the traditions, all the things that go along with that. What this show isn't is we're not a sports talk show. Now, yes, we will talk sports because that's what brings us all together. But as far as stats and fantasy game, we may touch on that from time to time, but that's not our specialty. Our specialty is the game day experience. You've got one of the greatest game day chefs of anybody. This man has cooked at the Taste of the NFL. He's cooked at the College Football Hall of Fame. This guy has been involved in Super Bowl events. I remember when you were in Dallas at a big event before the Super Bowl. There was a big storm in Dallas. It actually snowed, and
Snow in Dallas,
yeah,
yeah.
it was ridiculous. But you have been at all of the, I would say, a lot of the seminal events in sports history in North America, and every time you're there, whether it's Las Vegas, whether it is Phoenix, the Super Bowl there, cooking in front of a crowd of 2,000 people, and Lomas Brown from the Detroit Lions is hanging out with us and having a great time, to just the travel we've gotten to do, the fun stories we've had, and the ones that we want to share, and most importantly, your stories, you folks out there that are partaking in this show, because you're out in your area, whether you're at a D1 school or a D3 school or a high school, or it doesn't matter. We are not going to we're not prejudiced against where you tailgate. It can be at a NASCAR event. It can be at NHRA. It can be anywhere. We want to hear your stories, and we want to share those with this audience. So this show, Tailgate Radio, is really a celebration. As Doc said earlier, he kicked the show off saying, in the world we live in right now, we need escapism. We don't need things infused into our recreation time. And so this is a celebration of that.
And we don't need the big show off. A hot dog and sour cream and onion potato chips on a hibachi in front of 80,000 people is just as important as somebody who's sous vide a 25-pound brisket and reverse seared it, or whatever. I mean, 6 courses in the parking lot and some Chateauneuf de Pop wine. It does not matter. This is about the celebration of breaking bread. This is about us getting together, talking about the stories that round out our game day. I am a football crack addict, and I can sit here and talk about my days of DVOA and ESPN stats and everything. Sunday is my church. Saturday is your church. But
yeah, that's a great distinction too, Doc, because you are
foundation. Yeah, it's a foundation for sports and food, really. And fall is the perfect time. I mean, we've talked about it. It doesn't have to be about the sport itself, but there's so many stories in football and food. It's like, yeah, we've talked about Super Bowl, but just an average day in October. I'm going to tell you what it does, John, to a lot of the people that I talk to, and I talk to dozens of NFL fans every week about food. It's a diversion. It's attention deficit disorder for the middle of the week. Oh, I got a game on Saturday. I better start menu planning, and that really takes you away, creates a diversion in life to this chaos we live in. Sports and food is the bomb, and we're going to make it so.
Yes. And, there are so many callbacks that we'll have over the years that we did this show previously, and so many just amazing people that we met, whether it was the original commissioner of tailgating, Joe Kahn. What a character that guy was.
God rest his soul.
May he rest in peace. He was really, I think, probably the first person that really brought tailgating to the forefront to a national audience.
So.
We all did it regionally, and we all did it in our own, but he really shone a spotlight on tailgating, and we'll forever be indebted to him. And plus, he was just an awesome guy. Lived down in New Orleans, I think, and was a chef, and just I know you have a great affinity to the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints. And I'm more of a college guy, but I love the complementary aspects of what we do, because I've been able to travel the country and visit over 150 football stadiums across the nation. And I know you've done the same, and you've spent tons of time in that NFL space, but Joe Kahn was really one of the guys that, man, he was just a pleasure to be around, and just a gentleman, and a tailgating scholar. And I think he ran for president one time on the tailgate party, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Joe was a retired chef from the New Orleans School of Cooking, and he got so popular with the sports fan, he took his RV around the country. And Joe would visit me every year, and those little micro stories. I mean, I remember I left a Monday Night Football game with Dallas and Buffalo to go sit in his RV and talk about the nuances of his new garlic sauce that he had brought into town with him. Those are moments I take to my grave with me. But I'll tell you, Joe was literally the first national ambassador for this wonderful economy of tailgating. And we will talk about him because I have stories with Joe and some of the biggest boneheaded moves I've ever made in tailgating trying to impress that guy. So amen to that.
I just remember you creating one of the biggest and best pots of jambalaya I've ever eaten in my
Oh,
life. And your skirt steak and just some of the other, yeah, we're going to dive into all of that.
oh,
And just to give you guys some texture on what the show's actually going to be about, we're not just going to wax prophetically about past stories. We're going to share great game day gadgets, the things that make your game day experience more fun. And we're going to share, you just talked about recipes. There are so many recipes that Doc has he's got more in his head than I've gotten written down or have ever cooked in my life. So we're going to talk about some of those and how to pair certain things with certain events, and just make this a fun and interactive and engaging experience. But we're also going to be interviewing you, the people out in the parking lot that are making this thing happen. And I would dare say, Doc, that between when we did our last show, which was in 2018, and now, the tailgating landscape has changed, not by the fans and the people in the parking lot, but there's so many more products and services that cater to the tailgating consumer and the tailgate nation, as we like to call everybody, that I'm excited to jump back into that and see where we go, because there are so many new opportunities to share stories, ideas, products, services, recipes. I'm blown away by, it's like I'm salivating thinking about all of the opportunities we have to talk about
and
this
what
stuff.
is I think we need to kind of hitch our wagon to this. It's, when COVID hit, a story I had with and one gentleman similar to Joe Kahn we'll talk about, who loves tailgating, Guy Fieri, spent the afternoon with him, and we talked about, we have spent 30 years moving the pantry to the parking lot. I remember when I went to a competition, I had to take recipes for like 30 things, which is ridiculous in a remote setting. But now we've taken all the interactive, dynamic culture of American tailgating and tried to stick it in a living room during
Yeah.
COVID.
Home gating is
And
huge.
home gating, millions and millions of dollars have come over. And one of my old buddies that we work with back in the NHRA days said things are never going to be the same. And we've got more dynamic media that allows people to watch 3-4 screens at one time. So the
Yeah.
thing is we say, we'll get you in the parking lot, but we're also going to get you set for the living room and the sports bar, because either or, we are all spread over game day in multiple venues, not just the parking lot, but it all is driven from all the derivatives of tailgating. And home gating is huge. Sports bar gating is huge. That's what's going to encompass this show. The dynamic crosses over so easily that, you've got more capabilities, John, in the kitchen than you do in a remote kitchen. And it's something, you can reach up into a cupboard where you can't look into a duffel. And so home gating is going to be a big part of what we do.
Yeah, and if you think about it, since we last did this show, prices to sporting events have skyrocketed. And the reality is fandom has also skyrocketed. And not everybody can make it to the parking lot on game day, but you know what everybody can do is they can go into their kitchen, as you just said, and prepare a feast for their neighbors. I was telling you the other day when we were talking about bringing the show back about a block party that happens in our cul-de-sac every weekend because
Yeah.
everybody, I live in South Texas in San Antonio, and everybody in our neighborhood is a fan of a team from the NFC North. No Cowboys fans, no Texans fans, but there's a shit ton of Vikings, Packers,
Yep.
Lions, and who am I missing?
Bears.
The
Suck.
Chicago Bears, the
Oh, I'm
nemesis of
sorry.
the
Yeah, you know, yeah. I just listened to a song called "The Bears Still Suck," and it's from like 3 years ago because they took our coach in Detroit. So,
Yeah. It's a little bit of
anyways,
jealousy because the Bears are
I
actually
know
on the rise, and
they
and
are
uh,
on the rise.
and it's going to be a fun season for that division. But to your point, the growth and I remember you and I, again, I'm going to tell a story, but I remember you and I were in the headquarters of the NBA. And they were like, we want to get a piece of this tailgating business. And this was years ago. And we were like, well, here's the challenge that you're going to have is that on game day for football, they open up the parking lot 8 hours. If you're down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and there's an 8 o'clock game at night, they're opening that at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
With NBA games, the games are at 7. People get off, and they happen during the week for the most part. There are weekend games, but most of the schedule happens during the week. People get off of work at 5 or 5:30. The games are 7 or 7:30 tip off. You don't have time to do that. So where can you do that? And we said you need to build a line of tailgating gear that people can use at their homes. And I don't know if you remember seeing the drawings of some of the stuff they were doing for the NBA. And I don't know where that went, but they were on the wagon of your consultation with them of how important home gating is going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And now look at it. It's blown up.
And from the NBA, look at the popularity of the NCAA tournament,
Yeah.
and even the women's side, because you can home gate the ESPYs, the Academy Awards. You can home gate an entire tournament. Last year, I was sharing so many recipes from so many campuses that were in the NCAA tournament for the first time. We love our Weber states, but just you kind of parallel what happened during the World Cup. Excuse me. I will tell you that it was the coolest thing for me to educate myself around what was street food in an island in the South Pacific that was in the World Cup for the first time. Or maybe the Mexican pozole soup is similar by a different name in Colombia. And it was like, I was going back to the days of my love of Anthony Bourdain and his influence on me, but it is my one time to open my window to the world of foods that are perfect for tailgating and home gating. You know,
Yeah.
where they say when in Rome. We've got all those stories, but you know, in your experience with the World Cup, we are going to get into that. Because it was one of the great international food scapes of my life, and I was happy to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and I have to tell you, being a big college football fan, I'm excited. My alma mater is a smaller school in the sports world. It's a big school, Texas State University. And what I'm excited about with Texas State, just using my own personal story, is that for the last 15 years or so, we've been in a conference that's been skewed more east. So Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina. So you get a ton of influences and barbecue and gumbo and all the things that go along with that. Well, they just moved with conference realignment. We'll get into that too. That's a crazy thing. And NIL. All of this is new since
Wow.
we talked about sports last.
Yep.
All of this is new, but our new conference is out west. It's the Pac-12, which is a new Pac-12. It's not the old Pac-12, but I look forward to now going to San Diego, to Washington, to Oregon, to Utah, and experiencing those tailgates because I haven't spent as much time out west as we have back east because there's just a lot more colleges, a lot more NFL franchises, and lots of Kentucky Derby, and all the things that skew to the eastern side of the U.S. So I'm really excited about experiencing new tailgate traditions at places like Utah State, Colorado State, and and understanding the traditions that go along with that. I come, one of my favorite television shows back in the day was Friday Night Lights, and it was clear minds, full hearts can't lose, I think was the
Clear
catchphrase.
eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Still one of the greatest TV shows ever.
Yeah, and that applies to what we're doing too, because everywhere we go, we're gonna have clear eyes, a full heart, and a full belly probably, and we can't lose because everybody, as I learned 15 years ago from a dude with a hibachi and a hatchback, everybody wins in the parking lot.
I tell you, I think that we are in, from your trips to the West Coast, and you're going to discover like boat gating in Washington, the West Coast elements and the amount of indigenous foodstuffs in Oregon and Washington are going to round out an entirely different flavor of tailgate that you're going to get on the East Coast. So I'm happy for you because we missed the Pac-12 and we missed the Pac-10 too, but I think they've been kind of for a few years, unfortunately in the national media, a little redheaded stepchild. And I think to bring them back into the fold is going to be wonderful culturally. You know what I mean? Because you're going to get to go experience that kind of culture.
Yeah, and my experience with college football is that so many of the traditions are micro traditions. Like you go somewhere like the University of Cincinnati, and you're going to see something there that you won't see anywhere else. Three-way chili and things that are
Cincinnati chili is its own.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. I embrace it, and we want to hear those stories. And so I am super excited about where we're going with Tailgate Radio in the year 2026. We're going to just to give you a layout, and I'm going to make a special announcement about this separately, but I am going to tell this group that's watching this first episode in several years. Doc and I are we're creating the Gameday Media Podcast Network. And not only will Tailgate Radio be there and be kind of a foundational show, but any of you fans that want to produce your own podcast or are currently producing your podcast and want to join a network, we are going to invite you to be a part of this network. And what's great about that is we'll make sure that your show is listened everywhere in the world through Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, all the places that people listen to podcasts. But we're also building a streaming network that'll be available on Amazon and on Roku. So if you ever endeavored yourself to be a sports personality talking about your school, your traditions, we're going to help you make that happen. And I couldn't be more excited about what we're building, this community around our Tailgate Nation, around other sports fans that are, you may not have the most polished look or sound. That's okay. We don't care. We'll help you. We both have coached people on how to do that, but we want to build a community of like-minded people that are there for the love of the game. And if we can put some shekels in your pocket and make you some money from revenue through ads or other things, we want to help you do that too. So look for the Gameday Media Podcast Network coming soon to a podcast player or a phone near you. So I'll get off my horse about that, but I'm super excited that we're going to be creating an international network. And that's one thing we should say with World Cup just leaving. people have a new found respect globally for each other, which I think we need to keep that momentum going. So if you are doing a sporting event in Poland or in Mexico or in the Philippines or in Singapore and you want to join the network, come on with it. We want to make it
We
happen.
want to hear your story. Well, I want to hear the stories.
Yes, that's what it's
You
all
know, it's like
about.
it is. And John, I think it was around. I don't know, date myself. I was in the parking lot in Buffalo. And we put a speaker up on top of this Suburban, and it was around the third issue of my Sirius XM show, and it was like flies to a bug light of you know where the table break-in started was a guy who dressed up as Hulk Hogan in my parking lot, and they had a mini bus, and they would break the table and do the wrestling moves and everything. He was about 50 feet from where I had my little leper colony of cooking for whatever it was, 20 to 50 people. But I will tell you that they reran my show on a Sunday morning, and that morning it was like flies to a bug. Like, are they talking about tailgating on the radio? And we ended up sharing recipes and email addresses. This culture of sports and food brings people together like nothing else in the world. So I just encourage, and I want to compound what you said, John. It doesn't matter if I've told you stories about creating tailgates at a little Tim Hortons soccer tournament of 9-year-olds where parents gathered in the parking lot. Tailgates and home gates break out over any kind of sporting event. We want those stories, however small, however big. It's what brings this community together. And we're the type of people that if you need a recipe rehab or you want to talk to a celebrity chef that can give his own 2 cents about what makes a game day great, we want to create that community again.
Absolutely. And there are so many tools that we didn't have back then that we have now that I can't wait to get feedback from people that listen. And hey, we used to have a segment called Hate Mail where people would send us things they didn't like about the show. Keep them coming, brother and sister, because we love those. Just give it to us. Let us know what we can do better, how we can help.
Absolutely.
But just know that this show comes to you from a place of camaraderie. It comes from a place of fellowship, of fun, of food, of friends. And you're not going to hear a lot of negativity in this show because there's enough of that in the world. As Doc talked about from the very top of the show, this is a place for you to imbue yourself with the essence and the celebration of tailgating, and we can't wait to get this thing kicked off. And thank you for checking this show out. We are going to be launching in early August. So when you watch this, if you're catching it for the first time and it's been maybe in November or December, you can start from here and catch up on the episodes, but we're going to make sure that all the content that we create and stories that we tell, and you hit that on the head, Doc, it's about the stories. There are so many wonderful human beings of all sizes, shapes, and nationalities that we want to spotlight. We want to shine that spotlight on you and the great things that you're doing around sports, around the game day experience. And we can't wait to hear your story, and we look forward to it.
They're out there. And I think more than any other time in the world in 2026, it's time for the world to break bread. And I'm going to leave you with this, John, that how sports is important to me and you. Something called the World Happiness Report, and there's been other studies that we have less best friends than ever. We dine with less people than ever. We dine alone more than ever. It is time to use this platform that we have to bring people back together. There is no reason there should be solitude on a Saturday or Sunday with the economies that we have. I hope we can be a center point for that. I will be waving my flag every weekend right through till Super Bowl and college bowl season.
I couldn't have said it any better, and I'm not going to add anything to that. For the Gridiron Chef, Jeff Dockery, I'm the Grill Sergeant, John Largent. Thank you for joining us on this inaugural relaunch of Tailgate Radio, and we can't wait to see you next time. Adios, amigos. Catch you on down the line. And as we always say, keep the drinks cold and the grill hot, and we'll see you in the parking lot.